this is the Crazyhouse World Championship, the candidate tournament from 2022, round 8. We'll watch Kleerkast versus littleplotkin. I see that Kleerkast is online, and hopefully littleplotkin will be seated in a little moment. Let's just take a brief look at what's happening in the candidates. littleplotkin was one of the pre-tournament favorites when you look at the ratings, but if you look at the winning percentage, he only has 51%. He beat Legion Destroyer quite convincingly 7-3, but he lost to Blitzbullet 3-7. He beat Master Tan convincingly 7-3. He beat Suanet 5.5, 4.5, but he lost to Fumitox and he lost to Spinal Tap 3.5, 6.5. And beating PKNM, trailing at the bottom, only by 6-4. So littleplotkin needs to win, and he needs to win big in this match. We see Kleerkast playing black, and as you can see from their previous encounters, littleplotkin has a slight lead, but he has won a lot of the last few matches. And let's see what the players have prepared in the opening here. So checking on b5 is a bit unusual. Black got to develop his knight with tempo. Maybe capture c3, put a bishop here on c6 to put some pressure down the long diagonal. And this is also an option, simply sacrificing on g2. Actually, this is a bit annoying. It's not possible to protect g2. You don't want to put the bishop in the corner. Nobody puts a bishop in the corner. So I suspect knight takes g2 and then simply move like pawn g4 if the king captures. The knight is trapped though, so this is littleplotkin's idea, although not quite trapped. The queen is protecting h4, so this costs white a pawn. So white needs to be quick here. Do you play d5 or just to blast things open? Yeah, d5 seems like the natural move, just to at least pretend you have some compensation. And maybe knight e5. He prefers to put the knight on e5. Putting more pieces on the board. And this knight also protects f7 and d7. So, with the knight protecting d7 and everything, seems like a good opportunity to capture on d5. I don't know, simply pawn at e6. And when you start mending your position like this, White doesn't have compensation for 2 pawns here. Black can just finish his development and be 2 solid pawns up. With no pawn to put on d4, this is a very active position for the bishop, putting pressure on f2. And maybe another bishop here on b6. Well, you need to take care of this threat. You might also consider castling. This is probably objectively the best move, because capturing g7 with so little in hand just seems dubious. So this is a strong threat now. You can capture e1 if you like, because you're threatening mate on g1. I would probably have preferred to take e1. So you want either a heavy or a knight for f2. I think maybe Kleerkast messed up slightly here. Giving the piece wasn't necessary. But with the bishop here, that's a very strong bishop protecting g7 also. You need to start putting pieces on the board. So no reason not to take here on h5. Am I missing something here? Bishop at f6 seems natural. Okay, so it looks like you can take here, but knight g3 check is a huge problem for white. So then this knight is strong here on f5. And now you can start harassing the white queen. Putting pieces on the board. Maybe pawn g4. Capture here. And this is a lot more direct. The white king is nude. You had bishop at b6, forking, king and queen. But this is probably heading towards mate. Pawn here, rook f1. A convincing win for Kleerkast in the first game. Let's just have a quick look here. Yeah, bishop b5 check is unusual. And black is already fine here. Yeah, why didn't he play bishop at g5? So tremendous compensation here for black. And it seems... Oh, what's this? Missed opportunity for white. Queen takes f7. Actually, that's not so hard to find. White would have been in great shape then. But after this, a few passive moves, yeah, white is simply lost. So we see a d4, d5 double fianchetto, symmetrical, and once the knight goes here, e3 seems like a safe position for the bishop. And welcome to all of you who are watching. I see a few fellow countrymen. Is that you, Patrick and Morten? Welcome. So why on earth is he giving up an entire piece? That just looks very, very dubious if you ask me. I don't understand this. G5. White is up on material and I'd say up on position as well. You can just take h6, knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, pawn g5. You might even consider taking the bishop if black captures e3. That's probably a threat. Okay, so white is up. What is he up? A piece for absolutely nothing. Black has nothing here. Or am I too pessimistic? No, I mean, you can just retreat with the knight. I don't see anything for black here. White prefers to leave the knight en prise just to gain some time. You might consider taking on f8, under promoting with check. That rook could become very nasty quickly. d5 is hanging. And once d5 is hanging, you can start taking and maybe mating with the rook you have in hand. And this is just a complete mystery to me. I mean, what is this? You can just move your king if you like. Or can you even take on h2? So strange, everything here. And white is just switching to positional mode here. There's a pawn hanging, and you can just start. He just plays chess. Yeah, why not? You can win a queen if you like. And playing chess with that much material up is nice. That's a free queen for white. And there's just no way that black has compensation. It doesn't have any compensation at all. One way to put the queen into action could be queen at d7. Also protecting g4. This closes the 5th rank, so now d5 is hanging again. So, I don't know. Knight g5. Maybe pawn e5. You certainly don't spend any time moving this rook. And these bishops are doing a great job defending the king here. Maybe pawn f6. Or even take on e4 and bishop f6 maybe. Absolutely hopeless here for black. And a very nasty check here. You can pick up f7 with check and knight g6 mate. And 2-0 Kleerkast. Very impressive. And what happened? I mean, black just gave away material here. g4 looks strong. And knight f6 is better for sure, but this is just super bad. Knight takes here, you take on g7. Hopeless. Yeah, very precise play here by Kleerkast. Okay, what happens here? d4, d5, and Kleerkast repeats his kingside fianchetto, a pet line of his. Whereas littleplotkin is a bit more conservative in his opening play. Putting some pressure here on c7. One idea would be to capture here and capture d5. Maybe at some point. And white needs to look out here for moves like knight takes d3, queen takes, pawn e4, when white wins a pawn, but black just gets all the play. And in fact, I think black looks comfortable already. Insta taking on d3. And I don't like the look of this at all. Do you play bishop f5, eyeing d3 with knight at d3 in mind? White will need to sacrifice his queen. Let's say bishop f5, queen takes, and then take c7. So maybe this is a better square. The threat was not only against the queen, but also queen takes here, and bishop takes f3 and knight g2 check. And this is very close to mate. So black is probably hoping to capture and capture. And that didn't really protect white from queen takes, knight takes. Which I think looks good. Or does it? Queen takes, bishop takes, knight takes. You can take there maybe. But this is not as convincing. This is starting to look like a fortress for white. All the pawns and the strong bishops in front of the king. And here black only has a queen for piece and pawn, so the compensation is not so bad for white. Using that semi-open c-file, putting pressure on the queen and also pressure over here. Let's snatch some pawns. Maybe black is hoping to take and put pawn on a2 and just promote. Or take and pawn e2, something like that. You might consider capturing, and pawn e2. He read my mind. Probably pawn e2. This is another nice move, threatening knight at h3 possibly. But what to do about pawn e2 here? I'm not sure what the threat was here for white. What about bishop takes and bishop g7? Doesn't that look safe? Pawn f6 maybe, or maybe you want to keep the pawn, I'm not sure. And now if white moves the queen, you simply take c1. And where is... You just take here, you ignore the knight. And can white really touch the king if you simply take here? No. You only have a rook in hand, and I don't... Oh, he missed that, the check on h6, and I missed it as well. Oops. That must have hurt. Black has a mate in 4 here. Knight f3, check. This is quite cute, actually. Boop. Missed a mate. and instead white mates. Oh, what a disaster. But Kleerkast is still in the lead. Early pawn sack by littleplotkin. We are out of the book. Black gets some open diagonals for his bishops. Maybe not the soundest opening theoretically, but shouldn't underestimate this. And white quickly gives back material here. And this is slightly passive, but if the bishop retreats, you have a queen trade here, and I don't think black dares capture with the rook because of queen and f7. Instead, black leaves the bishop en prise on d4. And this is a very explosive position. Now you actually can move the bishop, because you can recapture with the a rook on d8. Or maybe I'm just hallucinating. f7 is still uncovered. So no blockers for white. It's kind of awkward to block the check. Can you take on b2? And now I have to admit I don't quite get this, but maybe pawn takes, bishop h2, we can simply take a knight. So we got a pawn for h2 instead. I have a feeling what a mess. I suppose you take g2, take e3, just set the board on fire. You can actually grab this if you like. And no pawn in hand, but now black has a pawn in hand. You want to keep that pawn in hand. Do you play g5 maybe? Yeah. We want to have the pawn for g2. Kleerkast low on time. Knight takes, pawn takes check. But remember, there's always a mating threat now on g2. No good way for white to defend, I think. This is probably the best try. Although, now what? Just bishop check, and it's over 2-2. And little Plotkin is warmed up. He's playing some unusual stuff in the opening, just giving away material for activity. He's very dangerous with initiative here. Although the gambit itself is probably dubious. And black simply allows the sacrifice. And maybe bishop takes and knight f7. So, what's happening here? It's not like white has any big threats, or does he? Yes, he does. Queen f7 was the threat. Maybe knight f7, bishop takes, pawn takes. Powerful knight check here on g8, and white is just crushing here. Something diagon c5 and just take f6 with check, and black needs to give up the queen, and the position is just hopeless all of a sudden. What happened there? White seems to have decent compensation, but d5 was just way too passive. Bishop at g6 was the move. Strong position for white. So, little Plotkin in the lead. And He's playing yet another opening. White putting his pawns on the long diagonal just to suck the force out of this bishop. And I don't quite like the way black traded his kingside bishop for a queenside knight. Because I suppose black will castle this way, and then he could have used a bishop in the defense. So already problems here for black. White probably threatening to take on d7, queen takes, and bishop takes f6. Yeah, why not just go back to h4? e6 looks super weak now. Watch out for knight takes c7. Seems like black has some compensation here after all. Rooks on the semi-open files. This bishop neatly pinning the knight on f3. And if you can only solve the problem with this passive bishop, black should be in great shape. So the black bishop got tired of sitting and waiting on b7. Wants to get involved in the game. But white has a very nice grip here on the light squares. Starting to put pressure here on the light squares. If queen takes here, maybe black will take h5, fork on e2. But what's this? I mean, can't you just take h6? Or is knight e2 too dangerous? Yeah, maybe so. On the other hand, maybe not. Yeah, knight check, bishop takes, knight check, King moves, pawn takes, king takes. Looks as if white will get out of the checks. Mm-hmm. Do you dare take on f5? What do you do here? Seems like this is backfiring for white. He had some good intentions, but black got there first. This is nifty. Play something here. Queen g7 mate, and bishop takes. Pawn takes with check. Both players down to the last 20 seconds. And black is just getting desperate here. Two seconds left, but now everything comes with check, including, oh, I missed the mate in one. So 3-3 when we have 4 games to go. I'm sorry if I'm a bit tired here. I'm almost falling asleep. Had a long day at work. And littleplotkin choosing very provocative opening here. Playing early f4. This is not to be recommended, but his idea is not to win the opening duel, really, but rather to get a decent position and also use the surprise value to put pressure on the clock. But it looks as if black is the one who's pressuring on the board, because if queen takes, black will simply take c2 and recapture on d4. And if the knight moves from c3, well, e4 is hanging. So white decides to give up a full piece. Capture, capture, knight takes, maybe bishop h5. Mm-hmm. So black slightly passive here, but having a nice little lead in material. Mm-hmm. Hey there, Jana. Thanks for rating. Black is really close to crashing through, but now white has the time to take on h3 maybe. You don't really want black to take on g2, do you? How is the material here? It's black is ahead 1 pawn. This is nice. King takes, knight check, and can grab this with check as well, maybe. Oops, white regaining the material. The black king is quite unsafe. White closing in for the kill. I mean, black is still better here. Should have just taken f2 here. Okay, I'll try to stay awake. Little Plotkin just being super provocative now. Playing some Dutch setup. And Kleerkast trying to go for the kill immediately. And one problem here is knight f6. You can probably take on h8. Knight takes, pawn f7, rook e8. Could also maybe check with the pawn. And check here with a knight. And maybe bishop g5, or what do you do? Yeah, bishop g5. Oh, things are not so clear, are they? Knight at g8, king d8. This bishop covers. And I wonder, isn't the white king in much worse danger than the black king? And the queen's hanging, so... Is it possible to play pawn d2? Maybe sacrifice the queen? Mm-hmm. Does he have enough? And you don't have the time to pick up the queen because queens and mate in a few moves. I don't quite see it for black. And there is nothing, is there? Bishop check, king takes, rook check, up with the king, knight check, checks are over. So you need to find some way to stay safe, but white has such strong threats. Just pick up the rook and queen, and also just bishop here, queen mate possibly. Well, he needs to move. But this is nothing. White is safe here. Pawn b5. Blocking. And where is the killing move? Maybe knight c4. Something here. Pawn at d4. Okay, queen at d4 then. Looked as if black actually had something here, but maybe I'm... Pawn d2. Yeah, pawn d2 first. Maybe. Queen takes. And check. And what is the difference? Well, here there's no exit, so king here, bishop d2. So this is a huge difference. You can pick up this with check, and then go like this. It's a draw. No, black is better here. So after this sequence, white was just winning. Okay, it's 4-4, 2 games to go, and I'm sorry. Sorry guys, littleplotkin, you won't get first place, and neither will Kleerkast. So, what do we have here in the opening? The h5 idea here is very common. You want to push the h pawn. But this seems like a nice idea by white. Here with the open, semi-open, I should say, F file, white has some chances. But why not be primitive and just push the H pawn? White obviously doesn't want to open the H file voluntarily, so he plays G4 instead. This actually looks promising for white, I think. Simple threat take and bishop at F7. Yeah, just looks bad for black. Pushing the H pawn was just too optimistic, I guess. And now the white attack looks very dangerous indeed. I suppose you pick up C6 at some point. And a pawn check, maybe. So what happens after King E7? I can't find anything immediate for white, and he does have a couple of pieces hanging. But what's this? That just looks like a huge mistake. You can probably just take and take here. And this should be over pretty soon. Yeah. So maybe Kleerkast can make this a tie if he wins the last game. And littleplotkin choosing another opening once again. And black simply giving up a piece here. I suppose the idea is pawn takes, and then make use of the G file combined with the long diagonal. So white just ignores taking on F6. Well, the knight is still there, you can take it later. Just finish the development first. And where is the black king going now? I mean, there's just no way. This is probably good, putting pressure here on c7, d6. And you take with the knight or the pawn. Both should be good. And maybe simply pawn e5. Certainly looks tempting. Littleplotkin trying to find compensation. And these bishops are just waiting for the right moment. I wonder if white can take on f6. Pawn takes, knight c7. Looks promising. Bishop takes, queen takes, knight c7. Oh, he took with the pawn, okay. But this is just very dangerous. I could have played knight c7 check instead, maybe. Knight c7 looked very promising. Because then you can probably just take the rook in the next move. Oh, we missed the chance there to check on c7, I think. The idea was knight check here, king d8. Capture, capture, and then simply pawn c7. Potentially nasty threats over here on the king's side, so black decides to put his king in relative safety. The threat was knight e7 check followed by queen b8. But here, is it possible to take on c6? And white just wins. Okay. Yeah, it was just way too Way too dubious, the black setup. You take on d6, and now black needs to recapture. Yeah, I was thinking knight c7 here was quicker, and then simply take the rook. Let's see what happens here. Bishop e7 was quicker, yeah. You need to go to here and boop. And if the knight takes, pawn check and mate on b8 or d8. Okay, sorry for being so tired tonight. That means I probably won't be broadcasting the next match, which is between PKN and Fumitox. But I really want to stream that match because Fumitox is the only player who's won all his matches. He's played 3 matches, beating Spinal Tap, beating Bugzilla, beating littleplotkin. So especially beating Bugzilla and littleplotkin, that's that is 2 very strong results. And game percentage wise, he's second behind Blitz Bullet. And if you check the calendar, you see on Sunday Blitz Bullet versus Zixan. And if I recall it right, Zixan beat Blitz Bullet last year. Maybe someone in the chat, maybe even Morten himself, can confirm. I think you beat Blitz Bullet last year, didn't you? Thanks for watching, Joanna. Yeah, really exciting games, and the result was 5-5. And I thought it was the right result. 5-5. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you again really soon, maybe even tonight, if I can stay awake. I'm making no promises. Okay, let's say Blitz Bullet lost to you. Okay, you're so humble. Yeah, okay, whatever. Zixan is a dangerous player, and Zixan has only played 1 match so far. So maybe he'll come sweeping through the playing field. And yeah, he's certainly dangerous to all players. Thank you for watching, and let's see if I can find someone to raid maybe. Is there someone I can raid? Sweeping through the playing field. Hikaru. Never mind. So, bye-bye for now. See you again soon.